Every journey must end. Leviathan Falls brings James S. A. Corey's Expanse to a close, uniting old allies, resurrecting cosmic horrors, and asking what humanity is willing to sacrifice to survive. Leviathan Falls is the 9th and final installment in James S. A. Corey's sprawling The Expanse series. Published in the year 2021 and clocking in at 528 pages, it is very much in line with the length and scope of its predecessors. It is a considerable achievement by Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham, the two authors behind the pen name James S. A. Corey, to have published 9 novels, each exceeding 500 pages, over the span of roughly 1 decade. Leviathan Wakes, the very first novel in the series, was released in 2011, which upon reflection makes me feel slightly older than I would like to admit. Be this as it may, Leviathan Falls, as the concluding novel of the series, naturally relies heavily on the groundwork and character development laid by the previous entries, some more influential than others over the course of that decade. It should therefore come as no surprise that Leviathan Falls shares many characteristics with the later novels in the series, most notably Tiamat's Wrath. In contrast to Leviathan Wakes, which leaned more firmly toward hard science fiction, Leviathan Falls is much more comfortably situated on the science fantasy end of the spectrum. Furthermore, after roughly 5,000 pages of novels and short stories, the series reaches its peak in terms of world building and the sheer number of notable characters. In terms of originality and novelty, one could argue that Leviathan Falls does introduce new elements, particularly in how it resolves the central conflict of the series. However, as will be discussed in the spoiler sections of this video, many of the underlying concepts and tropes have appeared in various forms in earlier works of science fiction. Regarding critical reception, Leviathan Falls was nominated for the Goodreads Choice Award for Best Science Fiction in the year 2022, and it also won the Dragon Award for Best Science Fiction Novel in the same year. Popular reception mirrors this relatively positive sentiment, with the novel holding a strong average rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars based on thousands of aggregated reviews from platforms such as Goodreads, LibraryThing and Amazon. As with several of the later novels in the series, Leviathan Falls has not been adapted for television series, and at present there appear to be no concrete plans to do so, although as always one should never say never. From this point onward, I must issue a general spoiler warning for all previous novels in the Expanse series, as well as for Leviathan Falls itself to some extent. The spoiler section will be clearly marked, and you have been warned. The Laconian Empire is in disarray after the loss of its central figure, Emperor Winston Duarte, opening a window of opportunity for the 1300 star systems to free themselves from Laconian rule. However, the ancient enemy that destroyed the Gate Builders has awakened once more, and its war against our universe has resumed. In the dead system of Adro, Elvi Okoye leads a desperate scientific mission to understand who the Gate Builders truly were and what annihilated them, even if it means compromising herself and the half-alien children who carry the burden of her research. Meanwhile, across humanity's far-flung systems, Colonel Aliana Tanaka hunts for Duarte's missing daughter and for the shattered remains of the Emperor himself. And aboard the Rocinante, James Holden and his crew struggle to build a future for humanity from the ruins of everything that came before. As nearly unimaginable forces prepare to extinguish all human life, Holden and a group of unlikely allies discover a final, desperate chance to unite humanity, offering the promise of a vast galactic civilization, free of war, factions, lies and secrets, but the cost of victory may be far worse than the price of defeat. In classic Expanse fashion, Leviathan Falls once again presents humanity with an existential crisis, this time with even higher stakes, where former enemies must set aside their comparatively petty conflicts in order to survive. James S.A. Corey succeeds in instilling a palpable sense of cosmic dread as the formless, unknowable entities beyond the gates devise increasingly effective ways to exterminate humanity. The final resolution and the choices required to save humanity, most notably the destruction of the ring's base and the ring gates, do not come out of left field. They are logical conclusions well foreshadowed throughout the series. By contrast, Duarte's proposed alternative, the forced unification of humanity into a hive mind using alien technology, feels fundamentally flawed. After all, the gate builders themselves were a hive mind, and they still fell to the entities beyond the gates. That said, Leviathan Falls requires an accessible antagonist, and Winston Duarte, well-intentioned though he may be, serves as an effective foil to Holden and the crew of the Rocinante. Nonetheless, the question of whether it is worth transforming humanity into something fundamentally unrecognizable, stripped of the very qualities that define it, merely to ensure survival, is a theme well worth pondering. While this idea is far from new and has been explored many times before, often on smaller scales and even at the level of the individual, it remains compelling in this context as well. Likewise, the trope of ancient, dark cosmic forces seeking to eradicate humanity is not novel either, having appeared prominently in works such as Alistair Reynolds' Revelation Space, for instance. What sets the Expanse apart, however, is that these entities possess motivations that are, to a certain extent, understandable even from a human perspective. One could argue that this very comprehensibility makes them feel somewhat less alien, perhaps even a bit pedestrian, and therefore less overtly Lovecraftian than similar cosmic horrors found elsewhere. I will let you be the judge whether this is a good thing or not, though. As a kind of farewell to the surviving main characters, Leviathan Falls feels structurally closer to the earlier novels in the series, with the core crew of the Rocinante reunited and once again operating on the fringes of authority. This serves as a nostalgic send-off, particularly in contrast to several of the middle and later novels, where this familiar formula was, quite intentionally, set aside. The ending largely succeeds due to the sacrifices that must be made, and because it functions as a true farewell to both the characters and the series as a whole. Looking back on The Expanse in its entirety, however, it is the earlier and middle novels that linger most strongly in my memory. To invoke a well-worn cliché, it truly is about the journey, not the destination. As for the epilogue, one could argue that it borders on gimmicky, but I would be lying if I said it did not leave me with a smirk on my face. Amos, it seems, has accumulated quite a bit of overtime. Overall, Leviathan Falls concludes The Expanse competently without taking excessive risks in how the story unfolds. It returns to a more traditional Expanse structure, with the crew of the Rocinante traversing humanity's remaining reach, avoiding catastrophe while forging uneasy alliances with former enemies and opponents. The novel provides both closure and a touch of nostalgia as well. While it may not rank among the most memorable entries in the series, it accomplishes what it sets out to do, and for anyone who has read Tiamat's Wrath, finishing the series with Leviathan Falls is an easy and obvious decision. If you liked this video, you may also enjoy the other reviews and content on my channel. Feel free to leave a comment if you want to discuss the novels or if you want to suggest other books that I should review in the future. Please consider upvoting and subscribing, it is much appreciated. Thank you for watching, and until next time.